Welcome to my channel. If you're new to the channel, thank you for joining us. Today I want to discuss an issue that gets a lot of play on the collectors' channels, and that is emulation versus original hardware for playing your video games. So the collectors work this in up to a lot of their videos, and some dedicate entire videos talking about emulation versus original hardware. So I wanted to weigh in on this because it's an important issue to me, and I have a different take on it, and I'm going to call out the collectors later on in the video. But we'll get to that. I want to set the stage first. I want to expand on this idea first before I call them out on their arguments. With that, I invite you to take a look at the other content on my channel. Please enjoy it, and if you are willing to, please subscribe. It really would help out a new channel like mine, just as I'm getting started. And hey, you can follow me in this YouTube journey that I've decided to take. With that, let's get into it. Thanks. First off, I want to define emulation, especially when it comes to emulation in video games. So emulation in the past has been somebody puts together a program for a PC or Mac or whatever, and they put it on the internet, and this PC app basically emulates or acts as the hardware and the software in a game console. So let's use the NES, for example. So you have an NES emulator. And then what they do is they take the ROMs, the read-only memory from the cartridges, they pull them out of the cartridge, data out of the cartridge, and put that up onto a website. You download the emulator, you download the ROM. You use them in conjunction, and you can play Super Mario on your PC. Wow. Now, though, it's a little different. This is not emulation. This is a licensed product from Nintendo. This emulates the Nintendo Entertainment System. You buy this, you get 30 games in it. You get the Super Nintendo 1 up there on the shelf. It has 21 games or 20 games plus one sort of game because it was in pre-production mode or whatever, but they included it on there. And basically that's modern emulation. Also modern emulation is when you buy something from the Sony store. So you're in the Sony store in your PS3 or PS4 or PS5, and you buy a PS2 game. Good example of this, I have Fatal Frame 1 for PlayStation 2. I don't have a physical copy of Fatal Frame 2. I bought on my PlayStation 3 Fatal Frame 2. I bought it for $10 Canadian. Wonderful buy. Great game. Love it. So that's basically emulation in a nutshell. Basically, it either through reverse engineering or by pulling the data right from the console somehow, and I'm not even sure how, I'm not a technical person. They set up a program, an app that plays the games that you love from older systems, usually older systems. There's not much use for it for new systems where you can buy all the games for them anyway. It's very rare that a new system you can't buy the games for. Anyway, that's emulation. Now I want to get into some of the arguments for emulation, because I am a big supporter of using emulation to play my games. I've watched a lot of videos with collectors, and they usually come out and say, play on the original hardware, play with the original disc, play with the original controller, because if you're using emulation, you're not getting the same experience. I say bollocks to that. I think that is the biggest pile of horseshit I've ever heard. I played the games on this, and they are exactly how I remember them as a kid when I was playing it at home on my Nintendo Entertainment System. It even slows down. With today's technology, it even slows down I'll use Legend of Zelda as an example. It slows down in the same places when there's too many sprites on the screen as it did with the original hardware. You buy something like this, or you buy it off the Switch store or the Sony store or wherever you're going to buy it, and you're getting a licensed version of that product, I guarantee you it's going to run and it's going to feel just like it did on the original hardware. That argument is crap. They push that argument because I don't think they really want to say what they are really thinking. So I'm going to call them out right now. And it's not all collectors that say this, but some do. And I've heard collectors say that these are garbage, that this is crap. Don't buy this. This is emulated crap. You're not going to like it. It's not going to play well. It's not going to last, or whatever. Whatever their arguments are, they hate these things. And they hate digital. And they'll scare you by saying, well, the Sony store will close and you won't be able to get your digital copies. You won't keep your digital copies. They'll be gone forever. Well, that might be the case, but if you pay $5 for a game, big deal. $5. So here's what I think is really driving them and really motivating them to say that you need to use original hardware. They've got a considerable amount of money tied up in a huge room filled with video games from God knows when. They could be collecting from Atari all the way up to current generation. They could have complete NES libraries. They could have every game for the PlayStation 1. Whatever. They've gone through considerable lengths to collect a huge amount of games. They've probably paid a lot less than what the games are worth on price charting today, and they want that value to keep going up. If people stop, if the demand slows and the demand stops for physical, original hardware, their investment goes down the tubes. That's what's motivating them. It's not a hatred of emulation. It's not because emulation, especially licensed emulation, is somehow inferior to the original product. It should be, in any case, it should be superior, because you're playing it on a piece of hardware that's much, much newer and much, much more advanced, with much more processing power, much more memory, etc., 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 and you're playing it in HD. I mean, let's look at what you go through if you do want to play it on the original hardware. So let's say you want to buy Earthbound and you want it on the original hardware. If you don't have a Super Nintendo, you have to go out and buy a Super Nintendo. That might only be $80, that might be $100, that might be $150. I've seen them for all of those prices locally on Facebook Marketplace. Then you go out and buy the disc, or the cartridge rather, cartridge. So you buy the cartridge and you spend $300 to $400, and now you're in it for, at least $350, but up to $500. You've spent to play one game, Earthbound. So you get it and you play the crap out of it, and maybe you pick up a few other games along the way. And then something happens to your Super Nintendo, it fizzles out. Well, okay. So now I've got this problem. Can I fix it? Can it be fixed? Yeah, sure, it can be fixed. A lot of these guys will say that these older systems are easily fixed. Well, maybe it is. But is that a skill set that you have? Is that a skill set I have? I don't have that skill set. I'm not a techie. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a computer hardware guy. I play video games. I like video games. So, first of all, that's an issue. The other issue is you have to find an old TV to play these old systems on, or you have to get an additional HD converter, which I'm not even sure is available for the Super Nintendo. I know for PlayStation 2 it is, but PlayStation 2 is 2 generations, more advanced than the Super Nintendo was. So, you have to get on a modern TV, you're going to need that HDMI connector, whatever, adapter. That is if you can get it. Now, something may not happen to your Super Nintendo. It may happen to the disc as well, or the cartridge. If you've got kids, oh boys. I mean, accidents happen, and a kid can spill chocolate milk all over your console, all over the cartridge, to destroy the whole thing. It's a complete accident. Complete. And it's just because maybe they're tired and not paying attention, or maybe they're fooling around, or maybe whatever the case may be. It can be a complete accident, and you're out that money. Or you can spend $150, get a Super Nintendo Mini like I've got on my shelf right here behind me, get Earthbound, get 20 other games, including A Link to the Past and Super Mario World and Final Fantasy 6, I was going to say, but it's actually Final Fantasy 3, the numbering thing. But my point is that you can get a lot more through emulation for a lot less money, and it's just as good. It is easily just as good, if not better, than the original. So stop listening to them. These guys who are pushing the original hardware, stop playing their game. Stop going after it. Unless, of course, it's something you have to, because I really want to play Xenosaga, so I'm going to have to go out and buy Xenosaga. Anyway, that's my take on it. I'd like to know your take on it. Please leave it in the comments. Am I full of shit? Am I talking up my ass? Maybe I am. But that's the way I see it, and that's the way I see the collecting community's motivation for pushing original hardware only. Listen, if they want to play on original hardware and they want to collect it, I have no problem with that. I do have a bit of a problem with them saying to everybody else, if you don't play on original hardware, you're not playing the real game. That's bollocks. Anyway, have a great day. And once again, if you want to join me on this YouTube journey of mine, please hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it as a new YouTube channel. Hey, I've got to grow and I got to keep going. So thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day.